You're now looking at the Jungfrau in the Swiss Alps, standing at 4,158 meters. It's one of Europe's most iconic snow-covered peaks. From here, you can admire glaciers, valleys, and lakes, an unforgettable panoramic view. Riding the cogwheel train to the top of Europe is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, whether hiking in summer or skiing in winter. This is a paradise for nature lovers. The house was small, but it was filled with warmth. It wasn't the kind of warmth that came from sunlight or a fireplace. It was the kind that came from love. In that modest living room sat Daniel, a man who never thought he'd become a father, and across from him sat Lily, the girl who had come into his life when she was just 8 years old. For years he had been her foster dad, but now something important was about to change. Daniel remembered the first day he met Lily. The rain had been falling hard, and the world outside felt heavy. She was just a little girl then, clutching a backpack that looked too big for her small shoulders. She had been through too much already, moving from one home to another, and when she looked up at him with those uncertain eyes, Daniel realized he wasn't just taking a child home. He was welcoming a broken heart that needed healing. That night, Daniel cooked her a simple dinner. It wasn't anything fancy, just spaghetti, the only dish he really knew how to make without burning it. Lily sat at the table in silence, unsure if she was allowed to eat, unsure if this was really her place. Daniel placed the plate in front of her and said softly, "You don't have to be afraid here. This is your home now." Slowly, she picked up the fork, and for the first time, Daniel saw the shadow of a smile. Evenings soon became their time together. Daniel would sit by her bed and read stories aloud. Sometimes she listened in silence. Sometimes she drifted to sleep before the ending. At first, she seemed afraid to ask for anything, as if she thought she didn't deserve it. But when she finally whispered, "Can you read me one more page?" Daniel's heart softened. It was the first time she had asked him for something, and he realized how much trust that small question carried. On weekends, Daniel took Lily to the park. At first, she sat on the swing without moving, watching other children play. But Daniel encouraged her, gave her a gentle push, and soon her laughter rose into the air like music. For a man who once lived alone in silence, the sound was almost overwhelming. That was the day he realized that Lily was not just passing through his life. She was becoming a part of it. Not everything was easy. At school, Lily struggled to fit in. She carried the weight of her past like a shadow, and sometimes children noticed she was different. The teasing stung. The whispers followed her down the hall. But Daniel was always there, waiting in the doorway when the day ended. His presence reminded her that even if the world outside felt unkind, she had someone who believed in her, someone who would never walk away. Trust came in small steps. One evening, when the rain tapped gently on the windows, Lily climbed onto the couch and sat beside Daniel. She didn't say a word, she simply leaned against his arm, carrying her blanket with her. For a child who once built walls around her heart, this was her way of saying, "I feel safe here." Daniel didn't speak either. He just set his newspaper aside and let the silence say everything that needed to be said. When her birthday came, Daniel baked her a cake, though he burned the first one and had to start over. He decorated the kitchen with crooked streamers and balloons that barely stayed up. But to Lily, it was more beautiful than anything she had ever seen. As the candles flickered in front of her, she whispered, "No one's ever done this for me before." And when she blew them out, Daniel made a silent wish of his own, that she would always know she was loved. The teenage years brought new challenges. One evening, Lily sat at the table, her books untouched, her eyes troubled. "I don't think I belong anywhere," she whispered, her voice trembling. Daniel didn't rush to answer. He simply listened, giving her space to pour out her fears. When he finally spoke, his words were steady and sure. "You belong here, Lily. You always will." She didn't reply, but the tears in her eyes told him she had heard every word. One Father's Day morning, Daniel found a card waiting for him on the table. The handwriting was uneven, but the words were clear. "Happy Father's Day." Lily stood by, holding a small gift with nervous hands. Daniel looked at the card, then at her, his eyes stinging with tears he tried to hide. He had never expected to be anyone's father. Yet, in that moment, he realized he already was, because to Lily, he wasn't just a foster parent. He was Dad. One evening, a thick envelope arrived, papers that would change everything. Daniel sat at the kitchen table, his hands trembling slightly as he read the words, "Petition for adoption." He had always loved Lily as his own, but now the law was giving him a chance to make it forever. When Lily entered the room, carrying a cup of tea, she noticed the papers and smiled shyly. "Does this mean?" she asked softly. Daniel nodded, his voice unsteady. "Yes, Lily, if you want it, this means we'll be family, forever." The morning of the hearing, Daniel and Lily walked hand in hand toward the courthouse. Neither of them spoke much. The weight of the day filled the silence. Daniel worried about saying the right words, about proving himself worthy on paper of what he had always been in his heart. Lily, on the other hand, only worried about one thing, making sure the world knew that this man beside her wasn't just her guardian, he was her father. Inside the courtroom, Daniel's heart pounded louder than any gavel. The judge read over the papers with care, then looked up with steady eyes. Questions were asked about Daniel's home, about his job, about his ability to provide. He answered each one as best as he could, his voice shaking, not because he doubted his love, but because he feared losing the very child who had become his life. Lily sat quietly, listening, and then the judge turned toward her, asking if she had anything she wanted to say. Lily rose to her feet. Her voice trembled at first, but then it grew steady. She looked at the judge, then at Daniel, and finally said, "He's been my dad for years. He's the one who stayed, the one who made me feel safe, the one who showed me what family really means. I don't care about last names or papers. To me, he's already my father. But today, I just want the world to know it too." The courtroom fell silent. Daniel's eyes filled with tears he could no longer hide. The judge smiled and nodded. With the sound of her gavel, it was done. "Adoption granted," she said warmly. Daniel lowered his head, overcome with emotion, and Lily rushed into his arms. For years, they had lived as father and daughter, in every way that mattered, but now, the world finally recognized it too. And as they left the courthouse hand in hand, the future stretched out before them, not as foster parent and child, but as family, forever.